The other story theme that really annoyed me, I didn't really mind it as much in season 1. I actually kind of liked it in season 1 because they kind of messed with it. And it's one of the things I like a little bit more, is the idea of self-sacrifice. And it gets really stupid in the second part of this.
It's so...
It's like, who can self-sacrifice first? LOL, nobody
and who
learns
can do
anything.
it harder? Like,
yeah.
いつかまた同じ笑顔で
Welcome back to the box, the Annie chat box, where 5 friends snuggle up in a teeny tiny itty bitty space to talk about all things anime. I'm your host this episode, Cassie, and I have 2 lovely individuals hanging out with me today. Off to my very, very, very far away left, actually away from me once in our bedroom at our brand new apartment, is the lovely Dominic.
hello.
How you feeling?
You know, same as always.
You know? At first I thought you were going to stop at
You know,
it's like,
just,
no,
I'm
we
just feeling, you know.
You
all know.
That's a feeling now.
You know. Yeah.
Well, hopefully somebody feeling a little bit more than maybe what you know, all the way across the lovely big vast ocean is our one and only Jonathan Joestar.
Hello. I'm here. I am
How
awake.
are you feeling?
Is
that it? Just awake? Is that how you're feeling? Is that all you can feel?
I got up not too long ago, as is actually kind of typical for this, but yeah.
What time is it there?
Currently 2:05 in the morning.
So now you guys see what John goes through to be here for us every week. Give him a good old pat on the back, a round of applause. Well, we are the only 3 here today, but we're going to have a fun time talking about one of my most taboo topics, and that is the do's and don'ts of CGI. We're going to go and talk about when we like CGI in anime, when we don't, and maybe who here has a huge distaste for it, and maybe people here who don't have as much of a distaste for it. It'll be a fun little discussion. I am not going to start because I think I'm possibly the most passionate about this topic. So I'm just going to let one of you guys just take the reins and go.
I guess I kind of had to get used to CGI in anime because of how much giant robot anime I watch, and nowadays the only giant robot anime that doesn't use CGI for the robots is Gundam. And even then, sometimes they use CGI. So I remember when anime started switching over to CGI all the times for the robot, I was really annoyed. It's like, why can't you just draw the robots? And then I was like, okay, the designs for the robots are getting more intricate and detailed. I guess I can live with this. And then now it's just kind of like, okay, it's part of it, I guess. Props to Gundam for sticking to it for the most part.
Sticking to 2D animation or to CGI?
To 2D. In Build Fighters and Build Divers, that, if I remember correctly, or at least most part, the the giant robots were all hand-drawn still. It might be the odd scene where it's CGI, but for the most part, it's hand-drawn in Gundam. But yeah, then I started noticing it in other series, like Frame Arms Girls. All the humans are hand-drawn, but all the Frame Arms Girls are CGI.
You know what? I think that would be a good starting point for a topic, because that's one of the things that I find difficult for me with CGI most of the time in a 2D anime. So, like, for example, Hoseki no Kuni. Everything was CGI for the most part. And so I didn't have this weird, what's the word for it? Like whiplash between the 2D animation and the 3D. And I think that the only times when I really enjoy CGI in anime is when it's done at least in a creative way, or if they're going to transfer from 2D animation to CGI, they don't make it be like the forefront of the picture, because that's typically where I get annoyed, especially if multiple times in a scene it switches back and forth between 2D and CGI, 2D, CGI, and it's very zoomed in. That's where I tend to get really annoyed, or I just think, wow, this doesn't look that great to me personally. Whereas with Hoseki no Kuni, I thought it was beautiful all the way through because I never had to adjust.
There is that. There's a few full CGI anime I've watched now that I've really enjoyed, like the Appleseed movie that came out a few years ago now.
Oh, many years ago. I remember that being on, like, Toonami one night, like, a million years ago when I was in, like, high school or something.
And that was full CGI. And when I first discovered it was full CGI, I was like, really? Couldn't you put... And then I got it and watched it, and I was like, no, this was awesome. I actually really enjoyed it.
What I've seen of Ajin is also really nice, and I think that one is mostly entirely CG as well. What about you, Dominic? You've been rather quiet.
I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I hate it. I hate it.
But like John, I come from a background of watching lots of giant robot shows. I also watch Precure, which has used CGI in a lot of different areas, mainly EDs and also in movies. And in my favorite season, the attacks are all CG. So I'm used to it in most cases. Also, right now I'm watching this season's Ultraman, entirely CG. Pretty good show, but it's entirely CG. So I'm desensitized to it. I prefer when it's used for things that are mechanical, or like things that are not things that don't look like humans. For instance, with Ultraman, when they're out of the suits and there's no like fighting going on, it looks like a PlayStation 3 Japanese RPG, which isn't that impressive to look at. But when we get like the actual fighting and the people are in the suits, it's a lot easier to just take it in as, you know, just a 3D show rather than I'm looking at like anime, I guess. And so it's a lot easier to take in. But there are some exceptions. I mentioned Precure. I think Precure is one of the only examples of anime that I've seen where they use 3D CG for actual like human characters. And there are certain at times when it actually, I think, looks really good. Generally when they do it for there are some Precure movies that are almost entirely or mostly or have large segments that are 3D CG. And that's because there's a prolific director who does the 3D CG stuff that gets to work on these movies, and he's really good at it. So there's that. Like I said, with robots, I'm pretty used to that. Majestic Prince is one of my favorite shows, and that was the show that kind of put one of the better CG studios on the map, which is Orange. They did Land of the Lustrous. So their action sequences and the way they actually use the camera in a 3D CG like format.
Plane.
Yeah, basically, like it's they basically convinced me that, you know, CG has its place if you actually know how to use it, because the camera movements and the way the action pans out in that show, it would be insanely difficult to do with 2D animation. Not that it would be impossible, but
it'd just be hard.
It would just be incredibly hard, and I wouldn't really expect anyone to animate in that way. So
yeah,
I feel like
especially because animators don't get paid crap.
Yeah, so I feel like if you're going to use 3D, if you're going to use CG, it has to be used in a way that is at least playing to the strengths that it can take advantage of. So
Yeah, the times where it annoys me the most is when it's like, okay, it's CG. Why couldn't you just hand draw on this scene where they're
Yeah.
pretty much just standing and talking?
Yeah, or I hate the back and forth and when you can tell they're just being lazy. Like, for example, on a recent anime that we watched, Zombie Land Saga, they had a scene where they fully animated a group of girls dancing on stage who weren't even the main, like, group. And then the main group got on stage a few frames later, and it was all CGI.
You know, I mean,
and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
I feel
I
like
was so mad.
I feel like that was almost done just on purpose, just to fuck with you, just because it is Zombieland Saga.
Maybe, but it pissed me off. Another recent example that really irritated me is Kino's Journey. A lot of the time when they use the CGI, it was when she was on her motorbike, which is fine. And in the far away shots, I didn't mind it as much, but they would have moments of dialogue with her on her bike, and she would be CGI animated, and then 2 seconds later, they'd have her 2D animated in the same scene, and I hated it so much. I also maybe it's just a pet peeve, and I know it's probably super hard to animate people dancing, but maybe I was just really spoiled by Idolmaster, but I get really annoyed with CGI dancing. I don't know why. It just irritates me. I'm like, why can't you just do some close-ups with 2D and make it look better? It just looks janky to me. But that's just my personal opinion, and maybe I've just become jaded over the years. Although I think I've become a little bit more open-minded as well with things like Land of the Lustrous and Najin coming out. I think I'm just a spoiled brat.
Yeah, with the dancing thing, I get it. Like, I get that actually animating a continuous choreographed sequence is, like, probably incredibly tough, but I also wish that a lot more shows would, especially if it's like a show that maybe only has like one or two, like with something like Aikatsu, where there's a dance sequence every episode. Like, okay, I get it. But with like other shows where sometimes you just have like, you know, a few dance sequences in the entire thing, and it's like, you really couldn't just have gone all out for this one scene or something. I don't know.
And I think that's where my biggest thing is. If CGI is played to its strengths, like you said earlier, I think that I'm becoming more open-minded about it. But when I can openly see where they're being lazy and just probably off-sourced it, that's where I get frustrated. And maybe I've gotten even more frustrated. I've become more open-minded with CGI because of things like Land of the Lustrous, but I've also become more, I think, jaded because I can see the most, like, the wonderful things that CGI can do, especially in, like, action scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's used just to be lazy. Or maybe they ran out of money or something. I almost never have a problem with CGI when it's like a car, or I've gotten really used to the CGI crowds that you always see. But I guess when you put it in my face so I have to see it, that's when I get frustrated, unless it's something that's completely CGI from start to finish.
I'm going to disagree on the car thing. I actually really hate the car thing because it's like, how, like, really?
I think I've just become so desensitized because it's in like every anime I've ever seen.
Yeah, I hate that though, because it's like, I get robots. They move. They're intricately designed, and not many people, I feel like the amount of people who can actually draw a fucking robot has decreased, especially since the 80s and the 90s.
For sure.
But a car? Come on! It doesn't even, like...
Can you draw a car?
I mean, I could probably draw... I don't know, but I imagine... like, come on!
Maybe nobody knows how to draw cars. Maybe nobody knows.
It doesn't actually, like, it doesn't really, like, move in any sort of intricate way. You draw the car and then it rolls on the ground. Like, that's how, like, come on, why is that CG? I don't know,
did I touch a nerve?
That annoys me. That does annoy me a little bit. But, I mean, it's like, I'm not gonna knock a show because it had a CGI car. Otherwise, I'd be knocking every single show. But I do see that, and I'm just like, really? Really, the car? Couldn't it draw the car?
No.
I don't know.
I mean, I can't draw a car. I can't draw most of the things.
I can't draw anything, but still.
Still.
I'm gonna be the annoying critic here.
I mean, I'm
probably... Draw your fucking cars, Japan.
I guess I think that the biggest problem with CGI for me is when I feel like it's out of place. Especially if a lot of things are 2D, that are in my face, and then you have this random 3D object. I think that's when it's a problem. But then there are times when it doesn't bother me. Like, for example, a very recent example, we watched, is it Kimetsu no Yaiba?
Kimetsu no Yaiba.
Kimetsu no Yaiba recently. And I really liked the CGI of Snow at the beginning, because I don't know, I just kind of liked it. And then the faraway shots of the CGI, I barely noticed. I think Dominic had a different opinion, but...
I noticed them, but it didn't... It was noticeable. Like, that's what they were doing.
But it blended.
But it worked well enough, and I can understand why they did it, because it, it was just like, a little shot of the guy of the main character, like, in the background moving and stuff, and I guess they did it to, save time and money. So I was like, okay, whatever, because everything else, like all the important stuff, actually looked really good.
Yeah. It's also just
but still, that's different than a car.
Exactly, for sure. And I think that another thing is, I think I like CGI when it's got a style. Like when it's a stylistic choice. Instead of just, for example, I think that I keep going back to Hoseki no Kuni, but it's the best example I have. I think it would have been an entirely different show if it was animated in 2D.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't have been able to do some of the things that they did with the fight scenes, with the shattering especially.
The hair. That just shines off the hair.
And I had some qualms with the animation in that show, but for the most part, I liked it a lot. Because it was a stylistic choice that popped. And I think that made it interesting for me. But when it's not a stylistic choice, I just have trouble, I guess. Or if it's just something to make things easier. Which, to be fair, people are working hard. If you need to make a budget cut and animate a car in CG for one scene so you can make the next scene look really good, okay, whatever. I just wish it wasn't so noticeable sometimes, I guess. I feel like I'm talking in a circle, but...
I mean, I get working with limitations. I think that's totally fine, but... Yeah, I don't know, just, like, a car? Really? A car?
I think with cars...
like, a car? Come on.
Is when, clearly in this scene, you can see in through the windows and see them sitting inside. And now it's a CG scene, so they've made the windows super opaque so you can't see into the car. And now you can see in the car, and now you can't. And
oh my god, I just had a flashback. Remember when we watched Fireworks and they had the random CGI models walking in the train? And
yeah, that was awful.
And even though it was super far away, you could just see the little awkward models moving in the train.
Yeah, because they move. That's always the biggest tell, is that CG moves way differently than an animated 2D animated object, and that's always for me is the biggest thing. I guess I think it moves in a different frame rate, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, that's always it's always the biggest tell is this is it immediately. That's another thing is why it can annoy me, especially if it's cut with other things that aren't in CG, is that, now we have something that's moving at a different rate of speed than basically everything else. So,
and that's where 2D and 3D are weird when they work in the same plane, I feel like. It's a balance, and if your balance is off, it's gonna look weird.
Yeah, and it will take me out of the actual, it'll take me out of my immersion for a second, usually, which is a bit of a problem, but generally speaking, I can forgive it. And if something has to be completely animated that way, I won't be too bothered by it, unless it just looks like complete shit. But yeah, there are some There are some examples of like where I'll completely ignore something if it's animated completely in CG. I didn't ever really get into Knights of Sidonia for that reason, because I didn't like how it looked. I just didn't like the style.
That's fair. But then again, that goes back to what I said earlier. When it's a stylistic choice, it's always going to be a hit or a miss.
Yeah.
But when it's a stylistic choice, at least I see that they tried. But no style is going to fit for everybody.
Yeah.
As our good friend Thanos has once said, it's all about balance.
There's one thing that I noticed, and I was actually kind of torn as like, is this CG or is this hand drawn? And I think they might have actually like animated it in CG and then wrote drew over it afterwards. The ending to Love is War, that dance sequence of the girl.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I liked that, though, because it was...
I like it. I really like it. But I was like, I saw it and was like, wait, this looks CG. And then I continued to watch it and was like, no, it doesn't. But it does. But
I think in that case it was a stylistic choice. And a lot of, like, for somebody who hates CG dancing, I like a lot of endings that are CG dancing. Like, Precure, EDs, I've loved all of them so far that I've experienced, and they're all CG. And I really liked the Love is War episode 3 ED. I don't know if it's CGI or not, but if it is CGI, it's disguised enough that it only looks like half CGI, which is weird. I don't know. But guys, do you know an anime that had some moments of inappropriate CGI that kind of annoyed me?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Yuki Yuuna. So today we have a kind of interesting mashup where we're technically reviewing a second season, but it was cut into 2 parts. This was an anime that John passed a good while ago, actually. I think this came out in like 2017 or something. I can't remember.
I can't remember now. It was
Me either. I know it's one of the older ones that we have. Yeah, it came out in fall of 2017, so we're almost finally done. We're almost have wiped our hands of the 2017 anime, because, God, we need to get away from them. But this will be a fun one to talk about. So the first 6 episodes was Yuki Yuuna wa Yuusha... Oh, wait. Is it? Yeah. Yuusha de aru Washio Sumi no Shou. And that's the first 6 episodes. So the Washio chapter is the first half. Mm-hmm. And then the second half is Yuki Yuuna wa Yuusha de aru Yuusha no Shou. So the hero. We will probably talk about season 1 in this, maybe like a little bit. So if we say season 1, we're referring to the one we're not reviewing, and if we say season 2, we're referring to these 2 parts as a whole, just to get that confusion out of everybody's minds. So we are reviewing Yuki Yuuna season 2. It's broken into 2 parts. We're reviewing those 2 parts as a unit. So let's go ahead and read the synopsis. I'm going to do the one from the hero chapter for our synopsis today from my anime list. So, having fulfilled their destiny during the events of Yuki Yuuna wa Yuusha de aru, also known as Season 1, Sanshu Middle School's hero club, consisting of Yuuna Yuki, Karin Miyoshi, and siblings Fu and Itsuki Inubozaki, is back in full swing, helping out those in need wherever they can. They have also gained a new member, a hero from the past named Sonoko Nogi, but eventually they notice that someone who should be among them is missing. Any trace of her existence is completely gone, save for the girl's memories. And I'm going to go ahead and stop there because the rest of it's kind of a spoiler. But that's the premise. Some other things that I forgot to mention is other shows that they have done, because I went on my spiel about the different parts. So some other shows by them include Surejure Children, Kiniro Mosaic, and Seiren. I like Surejure Children.
Did you mention the name of the studio?
And that is Studio Gokumi. I'm all out of sorts today, guys.
It's alright.
Please forgive me. We took a week off, and this is what happens. We're never allowed to take a week off again. But anyway, this is Studio Gokumi, and again, they've done things such as Surejure Children, Kiniro Mosaic, and Seiren. So I guess before we go ahead and dive into this one, we can have a very brief moment where we talk about how we feel about season 1. Just overall. And then we can go and start dissecting season 2. I guess I can start. I thought that season 1 of Yuki Yuuna was okay. I thought that it managed its stakes really weird. But I found the characters endearing, and I really liked some of the fight sequences, and I really appreciate that Yuki Yuuna punches things. Dominic has put this thing in me now where I like things that get punched. And I never knew it until I watched Hugto Precure. Go figure. But powerful women punching things is pretty nice, and they have a lot of it in here. Also, a lot of the transformation sequences, sans a couple that over-sexualize the girls, are really nice. Also, the music in this show is really damn good. That goes across. I really liked it in season 1. I really liked it in season 2. And I'm going to let Dominic talk about music when we get to production later, because they have some stuff they can say there that they looked up. But I think overall, season 1 of Yuki Yuuna was okay. What do you guys think?
I really liked season 1 of Yuki Yuuna. I remember the first time I was watching it through, it gave me some serious Madoka vibes, and I ended up looking at one of the character like, this character's the mummy of this series. And people who have seen Madoka will get what I'm implying with that. Turns out not to be the case, but that is because of the actual twist of season 1. Not going to go into that, but still.
We can go into it in spoilers. Well, there'll definitely be a spoiler room. But okay, so you liked it? You liked it?
I really enjoyed season 1.
Dominic?
I thought it was okay, I guess. I actually picked this up way back when the season 1 when it first aired, and then people started comparing it to Madoka, and I dropped it like a rock. So when I saw that the second season was on our list of stuff to review, I was like, maybe I'll give it another chance. The first season of Yuki Yuuna is like, it has this really weird thing where it's kind of like teetering on the edge of this, like, it wants to be a dark magical girl show, but it's also got this thing where it's like, no, fuck that, Yuki Yuuna is a hero and heroes save the day, and I like that part, but I feel like Yuki Yuuna has this problem, and this is across both seasons, where it doesn't really know which side it wants to be on.
I agree.
And for me, like, Madoka, I don't like it that much, but I'll give it that it makes me feel really miserable, and I never really smile or feel good watching it all the way through. It's consistent in that sense. But with Yuki Yuuna, it's like, it doesn't know what it wants to be. And I feel like even if it does have that aspect of, like, the magical girl genre that I do like somewhere in there, it's clashing too hard with the other part. And I find then it gives this, like, disconnect. But, like Cassie said, the music, really good. I'll talk about that a little bit more in production. Just really great music. Probably the highlight of the series.
It is. 150%.
Some nice aesthetic stuff. I like the design, or like the design of like the otherworldly thing that they go to when they have to fight. Some of the transformation sequences are pretty cool. I like the flower motif in the first season's OP. I think the first season's OP is really nice. Looks really good. Yeah. And just, production-wise, it's pretty good, with one annoying thing that we'll probably talk about.
Yeah.
That we briefly mentioned leading into this review, but generally, production-wise, it is relatively pleasing. But yeah, they didn't find a good balance, I think, when it came to the actual story and stuff.
For sure. And let's talk about story. So from here on out, let's just talk about season 2. We will abandon season 1 until spoilers.
Okay.
So I would agree, and I'm going to let John follow up on this and see how he feels in comparison to how we feel about the story. Because I think that you made a very good point of saying, I don't feel like it knows what it wants to be. And I felt that even more so in season 2. I feel like the first half, to me, was more impactful because I felt like there were actual stakes involved. Because I feel like one of the things that bothers me about Yuki Yuuna is they're like, oh, wow, here's these awful stakes, but it's fine. And it does that a lot. But the first half made me feel a lot for the 3 main characters as well. The 3 main characters of the Washio chapter, the first half, are probably some of my favorites. Without Yuuna being there. I like Yuuna a lot too, but I really loved all 3 of the mains in the first half. The 2 that I liked the most weren't even in the first season. But I just feel like it didn't really have a way to make me feel like I should be invested, especially because there's a lot of moments where they're like, oh, hey, maybe we shouldn't trust these people. But they gave us a new cell phone, so I guess it's fine. And I just feel like there's these weird leaps in logic that made it really hard for me to really get involved, especially in the second half.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Because it's just like, oh, hey, we learned that we probably shouldn't use these magical cell phones. I'm not going to say why, but they figured that out in the first season. But in the second season, it's fine. Why? Because the people who gave them to us are okay now, I guess. Let's go.
The whole Taisha thing and the whole way the world is set up is just...
It's not well built.
It is incredible. Like, in the first season, it was, like, kind of like, okay, this is, like, especially when you get to the twist. Mm-hmm. Like, but in this season, it's like they like, keep going with that. And it's like, okay, the further you build upon this kind of ridiculous setup, the less, like, I'm really, really having a hard time, like, sticking, like, with this. I'm getting really thrown off in terms of believability here. So yeah, I feel you there. I agree that the first half, the Washio chapter, is... Like, generally, like, if that chapter had been, like, if it had been its own show, separate from the rest of Yuki Yuuna, like, if they had just taken those 3 characters and made a show entirely about them and with their, like, their own setup and everything, I feel like it would have been a lot more meaningful.
I do think that the Washio Sumi chapter could have been its own 12-episode series on its own.
It could have, and they could have taken more time with it, because the problem with shoving it all into 6 episodes is that they had to get you to care about those characters quickly, to care about what happened to them towards the end, and then you immediately jump into the second season of Yuki Yuuna, which is a problem for me too. I agree, it could have been its own series. The other story theme that really annoyed me, I didn't really mind it as much in season 1. I actually kind of liked it in season 1 because they kind of messed with it. And it's one of the things I like a little bit more, is the idea of self-sacrifice. And it gets really stupid in the second part of this.
It's so...
It's like, who can self-sacrifice first? LOL, nobody
and who
learns
can do
anything.
it harder? Like,
yeah, and I did not like that. It actually made the second half almost unbearable for me.
It was a huge drag for me. Like, I blew through the first part relatively quickly, even though I had some issues with the first part, namely, like, some of the comedy bits. But the second part is only like 7 episodes, and I like struggled.
I agree. They did it like it was just this weird competition where they almost made one character like put in a situation where they had to feel bad about it just so the other person could put themselves in the exact same spot. And then the way they resolve it is not very well done either, in my opinion. So I detested the second half of the season. The first half, liked a lot. The first half I liked more than the original Yuki Yuuna, because I felt stakes. I felt impact. I didn't see it coming. I was just like, wow, this is a permanent lasting effect that happened to these girls, and it's traumatizing, and I care. And then we got to the second half, and I was just off the fun boat. But I'm going to let you go ahead and talk, John, because I've been ranting about the story for a bit.
Yeah, like, the first half definitely could be its own 12-episode series and probably would be so much better if it was. The second half...
It would benefit from it, yeah.
Maybe a movie or two. Definitely not its own series. I cannot see anyone sitting through the second half as its own 12-episode series. Because it would drag on too much.
The 7 episodes dragged on too much.
Yeah, it kind of did drag on too much.
The actually funny thing that you mentioned, the movie thing, the Washio Sumi chapter actually originated as movies.
Did it?
I got really confused trying to add this to my anime list and my Kitsu because there are movies.
Yeah,
I have not
of the
found any
Washio
of
chapter.
the movies. I've actually tried. I heard that there were movies, and I tried looking for them. I couldn't find them.
I don't think they're officially licensed.
They're
that's
not
why.
officially. Yeah, basically what they did is they made the Washio Sumi chapter as movies, and then I guess they aired them as like the first half of the second season, essentially. But I guess they made some change. Apparently, they made changes. I don't know what changes these are because I haven't seen the movie version. I don't really plan to. But yeah, there was actually originally movies before they condensed it into, or they basically made it a series, which was interesting. But I guess but the second part was just, I think, a TV only thing, but which is funny because it's more suited to a movie.
Yeah.
It really is. I wish they could have condensed it into maybe 2 OVAs. If you even need to do that, because it just went on and there's a lot of scenes that aren't unnecessary. Also the whole, there's a curse that's introduced and I don't think it's really fully explained how it is existing, why it's there, and how it ends up being
anything involving the Shinju, the god, essentially.
The Shinju-sama.
Yeah, is just incredibly poorly just explained and brought to the viewer's attention.
There's 2 gods, from what I understand. You got Shinju, and then you've got the god above.
I didn't really get that, so you.
Yeah, I just thought it was all Shinju.
I thought it was Shinju, and then some other entity that hated humanity or something, without going into spoilers, but I didn't think it was a god. But regardless, they don't interact with another god. They actually at some point interact with the Shinju-sama, but I don't think they actually actively show what the antagonistic force is outside of the, of course, things they fight. But maybe I just missed it. That just shows how much I cared. I did not care anything about the setup of the world. I think the world and the story is the weakest point. I'm not saying it's a weak show, but if you are coming in for story, then you're gonna be disappointed, in my opinion.
I think I've figured. I've got my own thoughts about what they were implying about the setup of the world with the gods. But I'll talk about that maybe in the spoiler section.
Sounds good. Do you have anything else you want to say about story, though, before we move on to characters?
Not really. I do agree with what you're all saying. The setup of the world is not very clear. I feel like I only really got it as well as I did because I did watch this through twice. The whole self-sacrifice thing they tried to take to another level in the second half of the second season, and it just kind of got, there was a moment of the pot calling the kettle black that happened, and I'm just like, please, guys, please. But I really loved the first half. The first half was really good.
The Washio chapter.
The Washio Sumi chapter, yeah.
Okay. You guys want to move on to characters? Talk about some of our favorites and how we felt about them in general?
Sure.
Who's first on the chopping block? Me. Okay, so the character that I currently have displayed as my icon of choice is literally the only reason I continued to enjoy the show. I was a huge fan of Nogi Sonoko. I did not care for her because she does appear in season 1, but I felt like she was a plot device in season 1. And I think what's really cool is the Sumi chapter does a really good job of making me feel a little bit more intrigued by season 1 because I'm able to fill in some of the gaps. And I think a lot of that comes down to Sonoko. One, she's peppy, she's fun, she's ditzy, but extremely intelligent, and that is so my type. I love that. I love that as airheaded and sleepy as she is, she's very good at coordinating and is kind of the backbone of the team, even if she doesn't seem it at first glance. Also, let's Kago alive!
Let's enjoy
I love
Kago alive!
Yeah. It's pretty good. I also really enjoyed her transformation sequence outside of one very fan servicey shot. I love that her aesthetic is basically what's it called? Like cats and chickens. I love that she sleeps in a chicken onesie. I love that her weapon of choice is a spear that turns into a shield. That is so fucking cool.
And she forgot that it turns into a shield at first.
Yeah, but she learned, and it's just really cool. I also really enjoyed her interactions with the other two characters. She was just really, really fun, and she made me just enjoy the character that she represented. It was just fun. I like her. She's just fun, and I just needed some fun in this show that I stopped caring about partway through. And she continued to have these little tiny scenes occasionally that made me actually go, "Aw, she's still here, I'm happy." Next.
I'm eating. Go, John.
Okay.
John!
I've put my favorite character as Washio Sumi.
Or Togo, I guess.
Or Togo Mimori. Because she actually goes by two different names as the series goes on. And part of it was carryover from season 1, because she was my favorite character in season 1, even with some of the melodrama that happened. She's the badass sniper of the group. Takes her in the Washio Sumi chapter. It takes her a bit to actually get a full grasp of what her role in the group is, and I actually really enjoyed watching that happen as well. And her learning to actually trust the other members of the group as well. Instead of trying to take on too much on herself. Becomes kind of a common theme amongst this character, trying to take on too much effort on herself. But still, I really enjoyed that struggle. I really enjoyed watching the friendship build between her and the other characters. And then, she has moments where she becomes super eccentric about things, and I really enjoyed those scenes. The whole...
I love her thing with the government and wanting to be a good representative of her country.
Yeah. I've forgotten the name. The superhero she came out with. Although that was technically Sono that came up with that character in her dream, and then Sumi
It was like
embraced it.
National Something Mask, basically. I forgot the full name of the superhero.
Yeah.
Tuxedo Mask female version. And highly militarized.
What was it? National something mask.
I don't
I'm
remember, but
completely
it was
forgotten
funny.
now. But yeah,
It was
I really
silly.
like that scene, or those scenes involving that character. There were a couple of times where she became a bit of a plot device, I guess. But still, overall, I really enjoyed that character, like faults and all.
For sure. I liked her a lot too.
Mhm.
You're up, Dominic.
So my favorite character was Gin, who was only in the first part of the second season. And
She's great.
she's cool. So I like her because she is the like fiery, like spunky, like just get all up in the enemy's face and bash their faces in, which is nice. I like that. I appreciate that.
She uses,
She doesn't punch things, but she's got these two
sword-like things.
Yeah, she's got these two giant like cleavers as her weapons, and like she just bashes them into things, and I was like, that's cool.
She wails intensely.
Yeah. Also, she is like a family person, and is like super all about her family, and like wants to get married, and she's just cute.
She's the tomboy of the group, but she's also
she's a tomboy, but
she has a very
but
feminine
she's also
side
like
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I enjoyed her a lot. She also has the coolest scene in the entire series, both season 1 and season 2.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I liked her. As far as the other characters were concerned, I liked Yuuki Yuuna until the end of the series, and then I wasn't that big on Yuuki Yuuna anymore. I liked Togo until the end of season 1, and then I didn't like Togo that much anymore.
Probably for
and
similar reasons.
Yeah, and then I also just kind of was getting tired of her whole nationalist thing. But I found it really funny when she would get like really dramatic about, like, she has these weird moments where she like is completely just okay with trying to kill herself. And for some reason it would always make me laugh. But I don't think you're supposed to laugh at it, so
No, not really.
yeah. But yeah, so I like Gin the most. Everyone else is kind of just either okay or whatever.
There was one moment with Gin that really made me laugh, and it was like the training camp with the volleyballs.
Yeah.
And they are like, you have to get Gin to the bus. And then they finally manage to do it, and then Gin destroys the bus. And I'm like, was you really supposed to do that, Gin?
She's a fiery spirit, and I like Gin a lot. She's probably my second favorite in the entire cast. I would agree that there are some characters that are really interesting, but for the most part, it's not like the most standout cast ever. We haven't even mentioned some of the characters, and I don't think they're very strong characters either. But the ones that I did like a decent amount. They just aren't what the highlight of the show for me. They're a lot better than the story, though. Like, if I had to choose story or characters as something that excelled in this anime, I'd pick the characters. I cared more about them than I cared about what was going on, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts on characters or characters in general? We didn't really talk about that.
I did still like Yuki Yuuna herself, even with the ending.
I thought she was okay, and then I didn't care for her anymore.
That's fair.
But I think, also, I'm sorry for eating, guys. Apologies, we're very hungry.
I'm absolutely not sorry for eating. You can listen to my scrumptious bites.
Your scrumptious bites.
All scrumptious bites.
Let me get a bite of those scrumptious bites. Silence. Okay, cool.
I'm actually not. I don't think I'm actually close enough for you to hear me chewing, but
No, I don't think so. But okay, if we're done with characters, I think we all basically agree that they're okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to what I like about this show a lot, and that is production. Bow, 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 bow,
can I talk
bow,
about the
bow.
music now?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Okay. So the music in this show is done by Monaka, who is founded by Keiichi Okabe. Keiichi Okabe is known for primarily his work on the Nier games.
That
Nier
explains
and Nier
it.
Automata. Yeah. He also did Drakengard 3, which is in the same universe. But yeah, and so a lot of the music in this show sounds straight out of Nier, and it is so good.
I have a note here saying like a lot of the music would not be out of place in Nier, and that explains it so much.
Yeah, and it's the exact same group. So I was listening to it and I was like, damn, this all sounds really, really familiar. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, that explains it. But yeah, so the music is phenomenal. It is without a doubt just the high point of the show for me.
It almost gets you invested.
Yeah, I like went on to YouTube and looked up quite a few of the tracks and was like, ah, yes, this is the good shit. I wish I could buy the soundtrack. That's how good it is. So yeah, I was quite pleased to find that out.
I also really like the transformation sequence if we're talking about the animation.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them I'm not a big fan of. Togo's, especially in season 1, is extremely sexual, and they're like 11.
Yeah.
For some reason, they insisted on focusing on Togo's breast, even when it goes to the prequel, and she's like 11. And that always just pisses me off. But otherwise, I really liked a lot of the, the animation involved in the transformation sequences and the punching and the fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I also really liked their Mankai forms, which is like the next level of forms. And I really loved the use of like flower petals in the atmosphere and also just as transition. I think that they use those really well.
I really loved the first time Yuuki transformed. The fact that it happened in stages, like punch, by kick, by punch.
Yeah,
before she
that was
finally
really
fully
cool.
transformed.
That was really cool. I liked that a lot. Otherwise, I feel like the animation was pretty standard fare, but it was good standard fare. Outside of the random fucking CGI.
When it was far away, it wasn't. I didn't think it was too bad.
John, in episode 3, they randomly broke out into CGI dancing for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
This is like a problem the entire like series has, is like anytime they have to animate like when they're fighting and stuff and they're moving in any sort of like fast or like sort of or swift anytime the characters are moving in a sort of dynamic way and the camera isn't directly in their face, they will use CGI.
Yeah.
And it becomes incredibly noticeable.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that kind of took away from my enjoyment of the action scenes a little bit, because unless it was a close-up or it was like that one fight with Gin, they used like a gratuitous amount of CGI to get the action like sequences done.
And that one fight with Gin had reasons why doing that with CG just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying why yet.
That's fine. But yeah, it's frustrating because a lot of there are moments in the show that look really, really nice. And even when it's not looking like amazing or really good, it's pretty okay, it's standard, like I feel like I'm having a good time. And then they would cut to some of like the worst CGI, and I just hated it. I hated it! It broke my immersion, I guess, as Dominic said in the main topic. Like, I would be in, and then I would be dialed out because of the CGI.
I guess I'm the most tolerable of CG of the three of us here.
Most tolerant?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the most tolerable one here, John. All of us are awful otherwise.
It's
I mean, I'm a
tolerant.
terrible human being.
That's
I
what
get that.
meant.
Just the worst. I see how it is,
That's
John.
not what I meant. I meant tolerant.
You said you're the most tolerable. I get it. It's fine.
No. That's not. I meant tolerant.
Oh, I don't know. I think you know what you said. But jokes aside, yeah, the production in the show is one of the better parts of it, specifically the music, but also some really standout transformation scenes and some fights. Like, for example, Gein's fight scene was intense, and I really liked it a whole lot. CJI dancing could go burn in hell, though.
Yeah, that part was just was very weird in general.
Yeah.
Episode 3, production-wise, was weird because the rest of the show is set up in, like, a way that it is, like, a narrative-based structure.
Okay.
And then,
I can. Oh yeah. Well, continue. I can kind of. I know what you're gonna say, but I can kind of explain why it's like that.
And then episode 3 is broken up as if it's like a bunch of comedy skits.
Yeah. So the director of the first season, and I guess the first part, is someone I am unfortunately very familiar with. His name is Seiji Kishi. He's directed such classics like Angel Beats, the Danganronpa 3 anime.
I'm sorry.
That's Asobi Asobase, the Persona 4 animation, and quite a few others. And Seiji Kishi is really fucking weird because they keep giving him these shows that are like kind of serious, but he clearly likes to do comedy. Some of his better shows are comedies. Asobi Asobase for one, Carnival Phantasm, which is probably one of the best comedies I've ever watched. Mm-hmm. It just requires a large amount of prior knowledge to actually get. So, and that episode of the first part is structured very similarly to a lot of his more comedy-centric shows like Carnival Phantasm, and actually reminded me a lot of that show, but it wasn't nearly as funny. No. So, that was probably why that entire episode is just so weird, but I think it has a lot to do with the director.
It just doesn't fit. It looks completely different from everything else. And I understand that they needed the lighthearted episode before what happened after it. But it still was like you could have had a lighthearted episode about how they're friends without all the random CGI and the random cuts and the random complete change in structure of your show. I did not like that episode. I hated it.
Yeah, I thought it was without a doubt the worst episode of the first part.
It's the worst episode, but it's in the best part of the show, in my opinion, which is funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did not like it. I did not like that structurally. I didn't like it. Production-wise, it just wasn't a really good episode.
Nope. Yeah. I just wanted to rant about Seiji Kishi for a little bit, because this guy has been fucking me over for quite a while now.
Any final thoughts on production before we move on to ratings?
I think I'm good to move on to ratings.
John, any final thoughts on production or just Yuki Yuuna in general?
When I first watched Yuuna, both the first and second series, and I did cry. And then rewatching it, I cried again, and I don't give a fuck. That's all. I mean,
there you go. John cried.
John cried. Is that your rating? John cried.
I cried.
I cried.
I cried. John.
I mean, that could have been something I say for when I was giving my rating, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, you wiki transfer on in. You want to finish your final thoughts and give a rating?
Yeah, you can be the first one.
Go for it. I was the one that swam it, so I probably should finish.
I know, actually. But still, you basically already started on your summary.
Yeah. All right. I did really enjoy this series in the end. I recognize it's got faults. There's definitely ways that this series could have been better. But I still really liked it. Not love it, but I liked it.
I will go next.
You go next.
I think season 1 was okay. And then season 2, the first half did the worst thing it could have done, which is got my expectations up, only to shit the bed in the latter half. And to me, a product needs to be consistent and at least decent all the way through. I was never big on Yuuki Yuuna, but at least I was having fun with the first series. But the second season, especially the second half, felt like a chore to watch. So I am going to give it a check it because you need to see each section and see if those are things that you would like and enjoy. I think that the first season also I would have given a check it, just for the record. So check the show out. I don't think it's abysmal. I don't think it's bad. I just think it's very okay. I think the first half of the second season almost got really good, and then it just went back to being mildly mediocre with the second half, not knowing where it wanted to go, not being built very well, and the characters not being as endearing. And the only reason I stayed was for the music, and I'm not the music person. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a check it, say it's not necessarily, well, it is my cup of tea. Maybe that's why I feel so bad about this. This is my cup of tea that somebody put some worms and dirt in, and while the tea itself tasted kind of okay, I had to swallow a worm, and I don't like that. So check it. See if you like it. I didn't like it very much.
I swallowed the worm, but check it out.
I swallowed the worm, but hey, there was some nice tea around it. The tea was of the finest grade, but even the finest tea can be ruined with a worm.
I guess it's my turn.
It is. Go.
Okay. I think there are things to enjoy in Yuuki Yuuna. It has some nice aspects to it, but I think if you're coming in for a dark magical girl show, you have better places to go. Probably. I don't know. That's not my area of expertise, and it never will be.
I can give you a list.
Yeah, ask Cassie about that sort of thing, I guess. But if you want a happier or a more hero type of magical girl show, there are definitely better places to go, and I can tell you about those. But Yuuki Yuuna is caught in between these two types of shows and doesn't quite know what it wants to do. So with that in mind, I'm really just gonna have to give it a pass it, because I think your time could
skip it?
Or skip it? Yeah, skip it. Yeah. I know our ratings. I know what I'm talking about. I'm
of
a
course.
host on this show.
Uh-huh.
I know things.
Uh-huh. Please
so,
go on.
Yeah. Skip it. Your time can be used in better ways depending on what you're looking for, in my opinion. But definitely don't skip the soundtrack. Definitely go onto YouTube and listen to that shit, because it is good.
For sure.
Some good shit.
I think I'm being nice because there were a couple moments that I really liked. I think that you could check out the thing is, to check out the first half of the second season, you have to watch the first season. And I really feel like that's also kind of, I don't know, you're going to have to see if it's your cup of tea. All right. That being said, why don't we talk about our recommendation for today?
Do I have to do it because I technically brought it up?
Sure, go for it.
So I recommended that we recommend. I recommended that we recommend Magical Girl Lyrical Nanoha, or Mahou Shoujo Lyrical Nanoha.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I think about a magical girl show that is also kind of on the more not completely a kid's show kind of side, but also is not
completely
edge
grim,
fest.
dark, edge.
Yeah, Nanoha is the best example I can think of.
It rides the middle line better than this show does.
It's the only thing. Yeah, it rides the middle line much better than Yuuki Yuuna does, and it's the only magical girl show I know of that rides that line successfully.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wanted to recommend it. You can go about watching it a few ways. There's a movie version which has better animation and generally sums up because the first season is not too, like...
First season, they were trying to find their stride when it came to animation.
Yeah,
so the animation quality is kind of a bit over.
Yeah, and it kind of like it has a lot of really like low points. The first TV series, and the first movie kind of cuts the fat and focuses a lot on the main struggle, which is nice. And then you have the second season, which also has its own movie version, which I haven't watched, so I can't really comment on that. But there's multiple ways to go about it, and I believe there's another movie that came out or is coming out.
Yeah, I still haven't been able to find it, but I heard about it long enough ago that it should have been out by now. And I believe that one actually goes between season 2 and season 3, and it's actually original story.
Interesting.
Yes. So that is my recommendation, and there are multiple ways to go about watching it, so give it a shot if you like this kind of thing, but maybe want something that is a little bit more, coherent about keeping its tone in check.
Alrighty. Well, I hope you enjoyed hanging out with us today. We're going to slip into a spoiler room. Before we do, I wanted to go ahead and hit you with our social links. So if you want to follow us at Twitter, get the hot new deets from Dominic over there, our new social media person. You can follow us at twitter.com. /AnnieChatbox. No the anymore. Again, it's twitter.com/AnnieChatbox. You can also email us at anniechatmail@gmail.com. We haven't gotten any new ones recently. It'd be fun to have some nice emails to read on the podcast. So if you have any thoughts, feelings, emotions, send them our way at anniechatmail@gmail.com. If you're listening to us on one thing, I want you to know there are many others. You can listen to us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And if you find it in your heart of hearts to donate to us, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/AnnieChatbox. We've actually updated our tiers recently, and there's a lot of cool little things that are happening behind the scenes now that you can have access to, including new episodes called Box Bits that are super fun, and we would love for you to listen to them. So definitely go over there and check that out. Also, shout out to our current patrons, Sarah, CorpsyAnn, Carol, Suki, and Paul. They are great. They've been supporting us. They've been keeping the lights on, getting people microphones. It's great. Also, if you miss Craig, you can still listen to him at another place. Good old soundcloud.com/saveourprogress, all one word. They talk about anime games, their feelings, and how hard they are to comprehend. Those kind of things.
Who misses Craig?
Wow. I
I'm
mean,
kidding, Craig.
Craig
love
made
you,
our
Craig.
fucking dinner. Like,
Please
wow.
come back. Please come back and talk about puppets with me.
Well, that's a spoiler. Tune in next week, everyone. But for now, we're going to sink into our spoiler room really quickly, give you guys a couple of seconds to leave. But for now, have a good night.
Yeah, get out of here.
Okay. We gotta get in here because I have some beef.
Mm-hmm.
Literally or figuratively?
I mean, we had some beef in our food that Craig made for. I'm gonna get some more when we're done recording. By the way, I'm gonna get some more. But could we talk for a second about how we lose parts of our bodies or part functions in our bodies, but that's okay now because it is. But we're going to keep trusting the fucking people who took away our abilities to eat and see and hear and speak because they said it's okay now. Like,
Yeah.
what the that ruined it for me. I was just done at that point. It's like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, they just needed a very convenient excuse to get them to, do their magical girl thing again, and it was dumb.
I also hated the, oh, I'm gonna sacrifice myself. No, you can't sacrifice yourself. We're here to be friends. I'm gonna sacrifice myself instead, but not tell anyone, even though I got mad at Togo because of that.
Yeah.
And then they come up with some really silly reason that, oh, they're gonna get hurt if they know, but then they know. But nobody gets fucking hurt after they read her diary. So
Yeah.
Even though they
that logic
specifically
went out the
said
window.
that by reading this, we're probably all going to be screwed because we're not supposed to know this.
I was waiting for something bad to happen and nothing else happened. I was like, okay, why is this here?
Yeah, so you can basically describe the second part as just a very just a very bad series of just contrived plot points that really only exist to further along the, whole Yuki Yuuna series, and it really just it drags and is like, it's just unnecessary melodrama just put together for the sake of having another part to the series, when you really could have just ended with season 1 and been relatively fine.
Yeah, because season 1 was okay.
Yeah.
But, like,
Yeah.
the other thing that pisses me off is, like, the whole point of the second half is kind of to justify the ending of season 1, but then just makes a shittier ending.
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna go back and try and rewrite your ending twice, could you maybe give it a little more effort this time?
Oh, so I like how in, like, the ending of of the second part of season 2, they basically, like, kill God, and now their world that was protected by the god and from the the vertexes or whatever is now, like, or the fire or whatever that was basically consuming their world is no longer protected by that, but they're just kind of doing their thing. And
Yeah, they're chill, they're fine. There's no stakes in this show. Oh my...
So, yeah, so what I understood is that basically the gods decided that it was humanity's time to end, but there were also gods that I presume were the various gods enshrined around Japan that still saw humanity as favorable. And those gods that saw humanity as favorable joined together and became one, which became, therefore, Shinju-sama. And Shinju-sama created the wall to protect what little was left of humanity and created that illusion. Whilst the rest of the gods, including God, decided, no, fuck you all, and burned the rest of the world. Because, oh yeah, fun fact, Yuki Yuuna is a post-apocalyptic magical girl series, apparently.
that's the thing that I don't get, though, is
It's
that
dumb.
is that you have the Taisha, which is supposed to worship,
Shinju-sama.
Shinju,
Yeah.
but they end up they quote unquote kill God and get rid of the whole or Shinju, and then Taisha ends up disappearing along with it.
Shinju-sama was dying, which required a sacrifice to bring him back. Hence that whole wedding. But God was like, no, fuck that, and led a full-on assault. But then Yuki Yuuna kind of took what little power was left of Shinju-sama and her love and support of her friends, and punched God in the eye and killed God. So their world's no longer in danger anymore. But also, Shinju's no longer there to protect them.
Any of that.
That's what I took away from it.
I guess thinking back on it, that makes sense, but it's, like, really poorly conveyed within the actual show itself. Like,
It took a
Speaking
rewatch
of
for me to
punching-
figure that out.
Speaking of punching, can I just say one of the most satisfying parts in the show is when Yuuki decks Togo in the face?
Yeah.
I loved that.
Just jumps onto a ship and, like, smack.
Also, that's another thing. Like, the reason why I enjoyed her punching her is because, one, it just was nice to see her punch something, and two, the show at that point was getting so irritating to me, I just wanted her to be punched. Because she's, like, the logical one who figured out that they couldn't kill themselves, and, like, oh, we're being lied to. And then she gets shown the truth, and her first thought is, I'm just gonna kill everyone! Like, that makes no sense. It goes against her complete character. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just was, like, anybody else doing what she did would have made more sense to me. But no, they had to have her do it because she's the main character, I guess, outside of Yuuna. I don't know. I thought that the thing where they were losing the ability to speak, talk, and, like, things that were important to them was actually kind of cool, to be honest. But I hate how the solution was, the Shinju-sama just decided that they're not going to take stuff from you anymore. Here, you can have it back.
Well, the thing is that the actual explanation is that the Shinju made new bodies for them.
I guess, yeah, which is weird. I had a hard time following it.
Which is really dumb, because it's like, if you could just make them entirely new fucking bodies, why didn't
you do that in the first place?
Yeah, like, why was that a issue? I don't know. That's the thing with this show, is that it brings up a problem, and then it solves it, like, miraculously through some
ass-pull
explanation that could have easily been implemented earlier for no reason other than, well, you know, we didn't really want to do that earlier, I guess.
Oh, the new Mankai system doesn't require you sacrificing any of yourself because we're turning it into a barrier that protects you, and then going Mankai takes away that barrier. But gives you more power.
Yeah, maybe
you should have.
Yeah, maybe you should have done that in the first place.
And I love that the excuse is, well, we didn't want to make you angry anymore, so we updated your app. Like, that's literally what this show is. It's, hey, app developers, listen to your customers and maybe don't take their body parts.
Yeah, Twitter.
God. Fucking assholes. I just can't.
It's just kind of a mess sometimes.
It is. Also the bullshit where it's like, oh, she disappeared, but nobody remembered she was there. I hate that trope. That's just a personal thing. I was confused at the beginning though, because I was like, where the fuck is she? But then she, like, was gone, but then they do flashbacks, and... Also, the little, like, scar she gets, the little curse she gets on her chest, literally looks like a really bad photoshopped thing you would buy at fucking Hot Topic.
I mean, you are the Hot Topic expert.
It looks dumb, and I hated it.
Yeah, it looked kind of weird.
I have a lot of frustrations with the show. There were some good moments, but I'm more frustrated because I feel like the show could have been really different and interesting, and it chose to not know where it wanted to go. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, if we could stop drawing 11-year-olds with gigantic titties, that'd be great too.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I don't understand that, because they, like, from season 1 to the beginning of season 2, they, like, changed all these, like, random things. The way they transform is different. The way the little, like, the monsters come is different. They changed all these little things with the world to reflect that things were different with how the whole system worked. But for some reason, Togo had to have big tits as an 11-year-old. They couldn't compromise on that. It had to stay. She needed the big titties.
I mean, I understand that there are early bloomers out there, but this was not an early bloomer situation. They just wanted to sexualize an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
That was the whole point. And it was very frustrating. Especially because the show is very good at empowering women. And then it does that.
That's the thing, and that's another thing. It's like it's not even that fan servicey of a show.
No,
Like
it's
especially
not.
the first season, like outside of Togo's like transformation sequence, there's really not that much fan service at all. And the second season, the first part of the second season has like again her new transformation, and then like a random like hot spring scene. But other than that, there's really not that much fan service in the series. It's really weird.
It is. Anybody else have any spoilers specifically you want to talk about? I just wanted to talk about those 2 things that pissed me off.
No, yeah, that was basically it for me too.
John, you have anything you want to talk about?
Just like season 1, the twist was finding out what the Mankai system entails. Season 2, the plot twist is finding out why the Mankai system was implemented in the first place. And then the hero arc twist is... there wasn't a twist, it was just trying to retcon the ending and make a new ending that meant that there can't be any more of the series anymore, basically.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the second half of season 2, like if they had like announced a new series, I probably would have been happy with that. But they've kind of made it so they can't make any more. It's like, okay, now we're just left with this.
It's not a bad show.
No.
It's just okay, and that's why the things that are bad about it shine a little bit more is because there's nothing particularly really good to outset it outside of the music, but that doesn't really fix the show.
Yeah, and you can just listen to the music by itself.
You can. And you
That's what I'm
probably
gonna do.
will.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah,
Maybe you are right now, for all I know.
I mean, I wish I could, but then I couldn't hear you guys. So I'm being at least slightly respectful right now, but don't tempt me.
Any final thoughts before we get out of here, guys?
Nah. It's very okay, which I guess I don't know. I guess I have a problem with shows that are just very okay as opposed to like bad or kind of good. You know, like if it's something is just very okay, then I feel like I struggled to get through it.
Yeah.
Whereas at least with something bad, I can be like, haha, this is kind of shitty, but at least I can, you know, like there's
Laugh.
something to react to, you know? But that's just me.
Yeah. I did still enjoy the series, but like that makes the bad things even more frustrating, I guess. So,
Any final thoughts, John, before we get out of here?
no, that's just it. I enjoyed it, but the way I've been reacting in the spoiler section probably doesn't sound like I did enjoy it. So, but I did enjoy it. It's just there are some very frustrating things about it that I'm like, grrr.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in for this episode of Annie Chat Box 105. Tune in for next week when we're going to talk about puppets. And by we, I mean everyone but me.
Oh my
Tammy.
god, I'm so excited to talk
I
about
know.
puppets.
I'm excited for you, but we will see you then. Oyasumi!
Bye-bye.
Bye.